Hello, everyone. We are back. We are on the Zoom and we're going to make this happen. So if you missed us, we are talking about how to let your retreat planning be effortless, to be enjoyable, to be carefree, and to really have you execute an amazing, brilliant experience for your retreat participants. And I know so many of us have these amazing visions in our head about what kind of event we want to have, but thinking about all the nitty gritty details and how we're going to make it happen feels overwhelming. And even if you start to get in it and you don't think it's going to be overwhelming, it accumulates and you start to feel stressed out. So today we're having an amazing expert interview with the wonderful Holly Morris of TravelFit Retreats. Welcome. So excited to have you.
Thank you.
I'm really excited for everyone to learn more about you because I had, just an amazing connection who was like, you have to meet Holly. And we met over email and I've just enjoyed getting to know her. And I love how passionate she is about making retreats a reality, just like I am. So Holly, tell everyone about you and a little bit about your story.
Sure. So I actually have a background in hospitality management and event planning, and migrated my career when I moved to New York City over to human resources, which has a lot of event planning as part of it as well. So I got to continue to do a part of hospitality that I really loved. And then a few years ago, went on a fitness retreat myself, traveled to Bali with a large fitness retreat company that does 20 or 30 retreats a year. And given my background, saw a lot of things that I thought that they could have done differently. I had not really heard of the retreat industry. I didn't know much about it. And a friend had introduced me to it and said, do you want to do this? And I have a passion for travel and a passion for fitness. So it seemed like the perfect fit. So I went and it was a great experience. But when I got back, I really started to talk to people within my network and ask their opinion on these and what did they think of retreats and was it a thing that people really actually did. And I heard the same thing over and over again from everybody I spoke to, which is I would love to host a retreat, or my clients have been asking me to host retreats for years, but I don't know how. I don't know how to get started and I don't have the time to do this and I don't know where to go to get the information that I need to do it, and I don't want it to be a bad experience and hurt my reputation. So I just sort of avoided doing it. And so with my background and what I sort of knew about travel and hospitality and the connections that I had and my passion for fitness, I decided to combine all of those together, and TravelFit Retreats was born. That's really where it came from, and now we really just focus on helping other business owners plan these wonderful retreats for their clients. And it's so rewarding to see them able to do it and to do it, year after year and to build out this business that I think is going to be around for a long time. And it's something that people are really, really interested in being a part of.
I love it. And we'll get to talking about retreat trends and all that good stuff because I could literally talk about it for an entire day. But I want to talk about the struggles. I want to talk about the struggle because I've been there. I've been deep in it with a retreat. I'm putting on my marketing hat, which my marketing hat is big and full and I love doing it. But then getting into even the weeds with logistics and drowning in it. So what are the top sort of pitfalls, the top logistical challenges that you might face and when you're hosting a retreat so you can look out for them and maybe even plan ahead and see them when they're coming?
I think the biggest challenges that people face are figuring out sort of where to go and what's the right venue. Retreats are a different kind of animal. You need space, you need the area to be able to do your workouts, whatever kind of workout it is. If it's a yoga retreat, you need space to be able to practice and do your poses. If it's a boot camp style retreat, you need to be able to, run around and do burpees and whatever it might be. So you need a lot of space, and to more urban areas, like a hotel, where it might be, that can accommodate a group of 10, 20, 25 people trying to work out and be active on their grounds with other guests around. So that's a huge thing, is to really, if you're looking at doing a retreat, speak with the venue and make sure that they can accommodate your group. Because the last thing you want is to sell this great retreat as this, fitness adventure where you're going to be running around and doing all kinds of really cool fitness things. And then you show up and there's no room to actually do any of what you promised your clients you were going to be doing. So that's a really big one. I think the other side of it is also around food. People can forget how important the food can be. I know when I was on my fitness retreat, I was hungry all day, every day. I was in Bali.
That's terrible.
Yeah, we were in Bali. It was so hot. It was so humid. We were working out 2 to 3 times a day. We were surfing. We were doing all these activities. And I just was starving. And it wasn't their fault. There was food available. But we were just starving all the time because we were just burning so many calories and sweating so much. So I think being able to talk to the venue and make sure that they are going to have enough food, that there is places to eat available at all times, because people are just going to be hungry.
A snack when they get back from something, or coconut water out and smoothies.
Absolutely. Whatever it might be.
About all those details.
Yeah. And those are the things that don't come up on just a group trip, or, if you're just traveling with family or friends. Those are not the things that you're going to be thinking about. But if you're basing your trip around fitness, it is something you're going to have to consider.
Awesome. So I want to just circle back to that first one you were talking about with visualizing the space. And are there any questions that maybe you want to always ask a venue? Because I know it's hard, especially if you've never been to the venue. And I know you've been to a ton of venues and I've been to a ton of venues, and that's how we can advise people. But the type of questions to ask around the fitness studio, because I know I've showed up and they said there was mirrors and there was no mirrors, or they said there was this and there was no that. And I forgot to ask. So how do you walk someone through that to think about the logistics of their activity, their fitness piece, and what kind of questions to ask? I also think air conditioning. That's the other thing. A lot of places don't have air conditioning. So does this room have air conditioning, or is it open air? Does it have a breeze?
Yeah.
Is it swelteringly hot?
I think I generally tell people and advise people not to try and do their workouts indoors. That's not why they're doing a retreat. Part of the joy of being on a retreat is being outdoors. And so it's great, to have a backup space if it rains or if something happens and you can't be outdoors. But I think you have to go into it expecting that you're either going to be in an open air studio, or you're going to be out on the beach or in the garden of wherever you're staying. So I think that's the first thing. I've had clients come to me and say, hey, we want to make sure that there's an actual physical studio where we can work out indoors with air conditioning, with a fan, whatever it might be. And my response is, that's going to limit your choices significantly of where you can go and
where it's going to cost more.
And it's going to cost more. Right. Exactly. So, the questions, again, that I always ask are around the amount of space and how many, and I think a big thing to look at also is how many guests, how many rooms does the hotel have? If you're doing a hotel, I tend to stick with hotels with less than 50 rooms, because that's going to limit, if you've got 10 of them or 20 of them, that's going to limit the amount of other guests that are around. And if you're looking for something a little bit more private and you're in a hotel or a resort with 150 rooms, you've probably got between 250 and 400 other guests around. So that's not going to be private. But if you're in a smaller boutique hotel, maybe it only has 20 rooms and you've got 8 of them, you're not going to have that many other guests around. You're going to be able to be somewhere private, and you're going to be able to kind of own the place for the week that you're there.
So that's a great question to ask. Yeah. How big is the venue? How many rooms are there? And know what percentage of them your group is taking up. And I always sometimes ask, is there another retreat going on? Is it a family? Just to know what else is going on the property while you're there hosting. So I want to talk about one of my top logistical challenges, and I don't know if this is normal or I just have a deficit with this, but it's transfers, getting people from an airport to a venue. And one of our places, last minute, they started throwing fees at me, and I was like, I canceled it. I said, give me my money back. And I rented a car, and we had me and the photographer driving people back and forth to the airport, just because it was so crazy. And, a lot of these amazing places like in Bali and Costa Rica, Hawaii, they're down dirt roads and people are on these shuttles, bouncing up and down for 2 hours. Is there any good, rules of thumb or best practices you have for transfers or shuttles that people can consider when they're booking for their events?
Yeah, I mean, so always places that include the transfers are your best bet. If you can get them, you can, and always ask. You know, they may not say that they include it, but if you're bringing 10 people or 12 people or 20 people, whatever it might be, and you're looking for a perk or some kind of benefit to include, they may not want to give you a free room night. They may not want to give you a free room. They may not want to do that. But if you say, can you include a transfer, you know, the transfers from the airport, they may be willing to do that depending on the location. The other thing that I always do with my clients, because personally TravelFit doesn't deal with flights. It's just too complicated and people are too picky. And so I never ever recommend including flights in your retreat. It's just not worth it. People have specific times and places that they'll fly out of and planes that they'll fly on and seats that they'll sit in. So it's just not worth doing, you know, including that. Right. But what I always do is I always give people a time to land or a time range to land in. So look at the flights from where you're coming from to where you're going. You'll see that there may be a cluster of flights that land at, say, 2 p.m. So if you tell everybody that they need to book their flights to land by 3 p.m. And then say, we're going to have a shuttle leaving from the airport to the hotel at, you know, 4:30. So everybody needs to land so they can get through customs and 30 to go to the venue. That's generally the easiest way to do it. And then you do one shuttle back from the venue to the hotel or to the airport at the end of the retreat, and just tell people what time that shuttle is so they can book their flights accordingly. That's the easiest way for people who for some reason can't make that shuttle. It becomes their responsibility to book their own transfer to the hotel. And generally it's not a big deal.
I wish I'd learned this years ago.
Yeah, it's generally not a big deal for somebody if they want to arrange a taxi or whatever to get to the venue on their own. But that way you're not doing exactly what you did where you're running back and forth to the airport in your own rental car trying to pick people up and get people into taxis. Just say, land by this time, the shuttle's leaving at this time. And 99% of your guests will pay attention to that and will try to land within that time because they all want to go as a group as well. They don't want to be stuck at the airport trying to navigate how to get to where they're going. They want to just be able to show up and get on the bus and go with everybody else to the hotel. They know they're not going to get lost. They know they're not going to be late for the first session. Get on the bus, go as a group, check in. It tends to run a lot more smoothly.
And I'll add just a small tip. If you have people coming internationally, so Australia, Europe, you know, inviting them to come a day early so they don't have jet lag on their first day of the retreat. Because I've had people fly from Australia and had to ask them, hey, you know, are you going to be up tomorrow morning? Like, are you going to be totally discombobulated? But just inviting them to hey, come to the resort a day early or come enjoy this country a day early or this city a day early and get yourself and your body acclimated to the space. That's one that just popped up to me.
And sometimes what you can do is if somebody says, hey, I'm coming in a day early, where should I stay? You can stay at the resort, or sometimes people would rather just stay near the airport and then the shuttle that you're on can just swing by the airport hotel and pick them up so they can travel with the group to the resort. Because sometimes the resort can be too expensive if you want to come a couple days early or something like that. So just a cheap airport hotel and then have the shuttle pick them up on their way with the group, and then they get to travel with the group. So
perfect. So my next question is, what do people not realize before they get into starting to plan the logistics for the retreat? Because this is I think the biggest they have this preconceived notion of how it's going to be, but what do they not realize before they start?
I think in a broad sense, they don't realize all the details. They don't think about the meals. They don't think about the transfers. They don't think about that kind of stuff. And then they get into it and they are shocked by the amount of work that it takes. So many of my clients have either hosted retreats in the past or have been doing it for years, and they get on the phone with me and they go, I never want to plan another retreat. I stopped doing them because I know how much work it is. I stopped doing them because I didn't have the time, whatever it is. I've hosted them before. I love hosting them. I love being with my clients, but planning it, I can't do it anymore. So I think it just goes around all the details. If you're going to get into specifics, I think one of the things that people don't realize is that a lot of countries have kind of unique things about them that if you don't specifically look for, you know, the quirks of that country, you're not going to know. Like a lot of countries in the Caribbean, wearing and having camouflage is illegal. And so if one of your guests shows up with a camouflage backpack, they can get in a lot of trouble. Like you're just not allowed to have camouflage because and there's no real consensus on why that is. It's something I've come across multiple times in the Caribbean, that you can't have camouflage while you're there for any number of reasons. So, you know, and in other places, they won't let you through customs if you don't know the name of where you're staying. So you don't know the name of your hotel, you know, you're not going to get through customs. And I had a client who said that she planned a retreat and every single one of her guests got stuck in customs because they didn't know the actual name of where they were staying, because she had arranged a shuttle. So she was like, I don't need to tell them where they're staying. Like they just come through the airport, get through customs. We'll pick them up and take them there. No big deal. None of them got through customs. They all got pulled aside, and she had to like go speak to them individually and say, you're staying here and this is the name of the resort. And it was a disaster. So just little things that you would never think of can sort of affect the whole trip.
Yeah. And little things like hiring a travel planner like you know the direct flights out of which city, or like checking your passport. Some countries require that it's valid for at least the next 6 months, so they won't let you
2
in.
blank pages.
That happened to a friend of mine coming into Bali, and she got stuck in her intermediary city. I think it was like Japan, and she was like stuck in Japan for 4 days until she could get a new passport made. And she missed 2 or 3 days of the retreat because she couldn't get there. So paying attention to those little things are super important. So this is a question I get a lot, like what kind of time commitment is it to plan a retreat? Because I think some people think, oh, I could just do it on the side and it's fun and it's like a little side project. And you and I both know how it really is.
Yeah. I mean, it varies. It depends how involved you want your retreat to be. If you want to plan a lot of excursions and activities to be included, then you're going to spend a lot of time emailing or on the phone with vendors trying to negotiate pricing and figure out how are they going to get from where they're staying to the location where the tour takes off. And, you know, so I think it really, and how nice you want it to be, you know, the more time you spend on it, the better it's going to be. And then there's the whole marketing piece. You know, the question I get a lot is how much in advance do I have to plan in order to market the trip? And that's your area of expertise. But like,
well, I'd say minimum 6 months, but I've seen it done in less.
You know, I say
it's a miracle if they can do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I always tell people about 6 months is generally the minimum. Some people can do it in 4 if they have a really good established clientele. They've hosted retreats before. They know they have these 10 people that are going to come, then they can probably do it in less. But my recommendation is always 6 months as well, just to get. And I have some clients who are planning now for 2020. So
yeah. I'm planning my event for 2020 already and telling people about it, telling my list about it. So one thing I want to kind of put, like, I'm interested in how many hours you spend per retreat per week, but I've really said that when I'm in retreat mode, it takes almost all of my energy. It takes 75% of my time. And I only take the other 25%, otherwise my clients would be really pissed at me. But it really becomes kind of a full-time job, especially when you're getting close.
Definitely.
And you mentioned excursions, but you know, I think of it from an angle of like booking speakers, coordinating speakers. Like I book my speakers' flights, I book my speakers' transfers. You know, I'm talking to them about their workshop or the activity that they're going to be facilitating, and I'm trying to curate, you know, the flow of the week and the way that everything's going to unfold. And so I'm trying to be like, where does this fit, and how do I make this flow? And that takes a fair amount of energy and time and thought and intention and vision to execute. So I'm curious about how many hours you spend. I mean, and that's just the logistics. And I know you do some of the day-to-day planning with them too.
Again, you know, I'm not the norm because I kind of have it down to a science now. So I can put it together somewhat more quickly. But if you've never done one before, it's going to take you probably 20 hours a week, every week, just devoting time to do this, whether it be the marketing piece, whether it be the bookings and trying to get all the, you know, the bookings together. But then you've also got to design menus. And if you're the one doing the trainings and you're the one, you've got to design your classes. You know, you've got to figure out what kind of equipment, like what are you going to need that isn't going to be readily available for you. So I have a client that's planning a retreat now. She's a sound healer. She needs crystal bowls. Is she going to be able to get them on island, or is she going to have to bring her own? Like, we've got to figure that out. We've got to look into that and make sure that she has those, because she can't do her part of the retreat without them. So some way or another, she's got to have crystal bowls for her. So whether that's calling FedEx and calling the hotel and seeing if they have them available, or somebody else on the island has them available for that she can rent them or borrow them. So there's just a lot of moving pieces, and you're going to be getting requests from people, right? You're going to be getting questions from your clients about, well, what do I pack? What do I bring? You've got to write out all your communications. You know, you need to send a packing list. You need to send destination information about, like, what airport do they have to fly in? And so that's an hour to put each one of those emails together and send it out. And then you've got to get your list together. And then you've got to work with all the bookings and make sure you're, you know, building out your booking page and getting all the necessary information. You know, we always put on our booking pages, we always collect injury information and dietary restrictions at a minimum, because one of the things you don't want to happen is to not ask that information, and you've planned out this beautiful menu of fish and meat and all these wonderful dishes, and then 5 people show up and they're vegetarians and you don't have any food for them. So, I mean, those are the types of things that they just take a long time. And in a lot of these places, you know, I work a lot in the Caribbean and in Central America, they're on, you know, quote unquote island time. So where you might be responding to emails, you know,
Why is my internet so bad? Internet is unstable. I don't know what's going on. Putting on my backup internet for you guys. So my other question is around what it's like to work with someone like you. So someone may be listening and being like, okay, I get it. I'm going to be overwhelmed. I don't know that I can handle all this stuff. How do I know what it's going to be like to work with a travel planner, an event planner, a logistical, what do you call yourself? Like, what is it like to work with you? How does it work?
So the process for us is really simple. We require a deposit up front. Once you pay your deposit, we'll start to talk about where you want to go. And then some people have a very keen sense. I want to go to Costa Rica, or I want to go to Bali, or wherever it might be. Yeah, wherever you want to go. You may have a very keen sense of where that is, and you've had this dream destination in mind for years, and this is where you're going to host your first retreat or host your retreat.
Right.
Other people have no idea where they want to go, and so they're asking, where should we go? And so we can give advice. We would never tell somebody where they should go, but we can say, you know, that then it kind of depends on what time of year do you want to travel. You know, you don't really want to go to Costa Rica or Nicaragua during the wet season. It's beautiful, but it's not great. I wouldn't recommend going, you know.
It's unpredictable now, though.
It's unpredictable, and you want to be outside. You want to be in the sunshine. You don't want to be in the rain.
I was there in February, and it should have been perfect weather, and it was pouring rain the entire time, but it was still a magical retreat. So I always say off-peak time is a great time to book a retreat because you can get a great deal. So what we generally recommend is shoulder season, which is right before or right after peak tourist season, because those great deals are available, but it's still in that transition period where it's not necessarily the heart of rainy season or something like that. So we always that's always the first time of year that we look at for whatever destination our clients choose, which is that shoulder season, right before or right after, you know, tourist season ends. And then from there, you know, we start to talk about the itinerary, where, you know, what kinds of activities do you want to include? Do you want it to be purely
beach and hang out and relax and rest and do that? Or do you want it to be jam-packed? Do you want to go surfing one day and snorkeling the next day and hiking the next day? And you want every day for there to be an activity? Those are really important things because you're going to be marketing this to a clientele that they're going to want to know what they're doing. So
Right.
thinking about the types of activities, and then you can, as a client, they can just throw what they want to do at us and we'll develop the itinerary so that it flows really nicely and the timing works out. And we handle all of that. And that's really what it comes down to when you work with us, is we take care of all of the details. We'll help you decide where to go, when to go, where to stay. There are some places where there are just a ton of options of places that you can stay. And it might be a retreat center, it might be a hotel, it might be a private villa. All of that sort of can be worked out and is custom to each client because everybody wants something different. So we'll talk about your group and figure out which option in terms of what type of accommodations you want, which is the best for you. So, we do all of that. Then we create your itinerary, we create your menus, we do all the guest communications. So as your guest book, we'll ask them all the questions and get all their contact information. So as, we can send them packing lists and destination information and important information about their visas and passports if they're going internationally, things like that. So we handle all of that. We also handle all of the bookings. So we'll create a custom booking page for every client, for every retreat. It's totally branded to our clients. Our opinion is always that our clients should never know that we were involved in the planning of the retreat. As far as they're concerned, our client put together a fabulous retreat, and that's all they need to know. They don't need to know that TravelFit even exists. That's not us. We're really on the back end. So we brand everything to our clients specifically. And so the booking page is all about the client, and it'll again give all that important information about where you're staying and the itinerary and the meals and all of that. So all of that's done by us. We handle all of the bookings as they come in. And a lot of this is flexible too. So you can start out by saying, we're going to do these 3 excursions, and then based on the group that ends up booking, you might want to change it. And that's totally fine as well. And again, we work with all the vendors, so we make sure that you're getting the best prices that are available. We never guarantee that anybody's going to get a specific discount, but we're going to fight on your behalf to get you the best rates we possibly can. And sometimes that's a 10% discount, sometimes that's a 30% discount. Just sort of depends on where you're going and when you're going and where you're staying. And we have existing relationships with a lot of these venues and a lot of these vendors, so we know we're going to get a good deal because they know we're repeat customers. So like a really good example of that is we work with a great surf school in Barbados, and we have a bunch of clients going to Barbados, and we know that we get about a 60% discount on their surf lessons because they know that this is already, clients 5, 6, and 7 that we're sending to them this year. So they know that like giving us the surf lessons for, $40 instead of $80 is worth it to them, because then we're going to go back to them the next time. And it's the only surf school that we use. So they know that they're our preferred and that they can rely on us for consistent business. So they give us a deal that they wouldn't give to anybody else.
I love this. It's where really the juiciness of hospitality is meeting retreats, because what people don't realize is there are people who do this for a living, people who, cultivate relationships with vendors, who like to go fight for the best price. They're on your side. And because I know I've been there, like trying to haggle in like a mixed, in a different language, trying to get a great deal. And it's hard. It's really challenging. So it's really cool that people like Holly exist and that they're there. And the other piece I would add that's great for working with a travel planner is the accountability piece, because it can be hard to get everything done and remember everything and not forget something. And working with someone like Holly, you're not going to forget any steps in the journey, right? You're going to make sure no stone is left unturned, and you're going to take care of every single piece of the puzzle. So I love that. So I want to go kind of into what kind of retreats you've planned. I know that you do a lot of different variety because it's like TravelFit, but
Yeah.
what kind of different types of retreats are out there and are the ones you're working on?
So a lot of our clients are yoga studios. Obviously, that's very, very popular. Yoga retreats are just a consistent thing that everybody likes to do and that a lot of studios want to do. So yoga retreats are a big part of our business. We're seeing a huge increase and a huge number of martial arts studios that want to host martial arts, Brazilian jiu-jitsu type camps. And that can be I have one client going into, wants to do it in Thailand, and I have another client who wants to do it in Costa Rica. So they can be anywhere. But that's a big growing market in terms of people that like they're looking to get a way to do it. And so that's a big thing that I wasn't expecting when I started TravelFit. I really thought that the vast majority of my business would be based around yoga. And I've had a lot of inquiries and a lot of interest from martial arts studios that for both adults and for children. So that's a big one. I think general fitness, so personal training studios, boutique fitness studios that run a variety of different classes, again, kind of boxing, kickboxing. It's really varied. People ask me a lot, like what my ideal client is, and the studios that are the most successful and the people that are the most successful running retreats are those that don't need a lot of equipment. So obviously, if your workout requires a rower and a treadmill and Pilates reformer machine, it's going to be really difficult to get that to the jungles in Costa Rica. So it makes it difficult. Now there are places that have that information and have those equipment available, but again, it really decreases your options in terms of where you can go because you need a place that has that equipment available. Whereas things like boot camps and body weight training and some of this high intensity interval training and martial arts and yoga, they don't use any equipment. So it's really easy to bring that out to the jungle or to the desert or to the beach or wherever it might be. So those are the best retreats. Those are the not easiest retreats to plan, but those are give you the most options in terms of the number of places you can go and the types of activities that you can do.
I actually helped coordinate a CrossFit retreat that was in Costa Rica, and they did it like all built on the beach. Like they were like lifting up driftwood and so getting creative with your fitness may be part of the retreat. Like how do you get them outside of their comfort zone of a gym and get them into the ground and the earth and where they are in that place and what that place has to offer, maybe swimming in the ocean or swimming in a river instead of swimming in a pool or things like that, or running around the beach, things like that are fun.
At one retreat that I did, we got coconuts and used coconuts as weights. We just ordered like 25 coconuts and people used coconuts as weights instead of barbells. And some of that stuff is easy to find. Like you can always, if you need barbells for your workout, we can find you barbells for your workout. If you want to use a TRX strap, you can throw some TRX straps in your suitcase. It's not a big deal. But when you get into
or bands, I've seen people throw bands.
When you get into the big equipment, you're going to have a little bit more difficult time. So it is about being creative and getting outside. So as long as you're willing to do that, your options are kind of endless in terms of what you can do.
Cool. So we have some questions from Joshua. So he asked about thoughts on fermentation workshops and retreats. Well, my first instinct is they can't take that food home with them if they're getting on a plane. So that would have to be a local type activity. Like if you were in Portland and you were advertising locally and everyone was driving in. And I know there's a couple of people out there that do some of that stuff. The person who pops in the head is Summer Bach, because I know Summer does stuff like that. And then learning how to make healthy food retreats. So I've seen this work, and I've also seen it not work. It can be tricky to just have that be the focus, just healthy food, healthy living, healthy lifestyle. If you kind of pull it out and see if you can do yoga or some sort of fitness in with the healthy eating, because the easiest way to affect change in someone's routine is to have 7 full days of it, right? 7 full days of healthy food. Maybe they're starving a little bit, but maybe cutting out alcohol or cutting out sugar or things like that, or learning how to juice. I know that there are retreats in Bali that do that, but they're not, the main sell isn't healthy eating because nobody really wants to go and eat healthy. People are not paying for that experience. They're paying for the result of feeling skinny or feeling well in yourself or, looking healthier, glow amazing, something like that. I'm interested in your thoughts too, because
I think if you can ever combine with your training, your vision with something else, that's great. The more people can get out of a retreat, the better. So if it is a healthy eating or a juice cleanse or whatever, a detox retreat, combining it with another function like a yoga or I don't know, like
meditation.
personal wellness. You know, maybe you don't want to work out if you're on a juice cleanse. Maybe that's not that's not the healthiest thing to do. You might pass out. But you know, some kind of personal wellness workshop, coaching, something that they can do in combination. Because yes, everybody wants to go to a beautiful destination, and yes, it's an added bonus to be able to do a juice cleanse or do something like that. But they're, as you said, they're going to need to get something a little bit more out of it, either in mental well-being or physical well-being, to combine with that so that they feel like they've kind of gotten the full experience. And I have a lot of clients who will combine what they're doing more on the fitness side with, for instance, yoga and nutrition. So they'll do a nutritional seminar while they're in Costa Rica. They'll have a local chef come. I had one client do a chocolate demo. Not exactly the healthiest, but a lot of fun. You know, Costa Rica is known for their chocolate, so they have really delicious chocolate. So they had a local chocolatier come and go over all the different kinds and the health benefits of the different chocolates and how it's made. And it was a really fun evening. So, and sometimes it's bringing those people with you. Sometimes it's a yoga instructor leading a retreat with a fitness instructor, and sometimes it's bringing in a local resource. I have a lot of clients on the fitness side who want to offer yoga, but don't want to bring a yoga instructor with them. It's not going to be the main focus of their retreat. So they'll hire a local yoga instructor to bring sort of that local flair with them and teach a couple of classes, you know, 2 or 3 times during the week. And it's like this added bonus, even though it's not the focus.
And some retreat centers have a yoga teacher on staff.
Absolutely.
So they can, for a small fee or even included in the price, can facilitate, you know, morning yoga or like kind of a yin yoga at night to kind of restorative before they go to sleep, depending on the flow of your retreat. So your next question was, have you ever facilitated a silent Vipassana meditation retreat? So my only warning is, don't call yourself a Vipassana unless you're Vipassana trained, because that's actually like a certification. And the other thing that comes to mind is that Vipassanas are free. Vipassanas are all over the world in most major cities, and they're 100% free, and people can go to them. So you kind of have stiff competition unless you already have sort of a meditation audience.
Yeah.
But I do have friends, you know, my friends at the Path in New York City host meditation events, you know, weekends in the Poconos and things like that, that are really deep meditation. But they often bring in like world-renowned teachers because they're not that they're meditation experts. They're bringing in people to maybe speak 3 or 4 times. There's lots of space for meditation. And then you asked about silence. So the one thing I can say about silence is that a couple of the retreat centers that I've been affiliated with observe silent morning. So until I think it's like 11, nobody talks. Even the kitchen staff doesn't talk. It's just silent. So I think it has to do with you syncing up with your venue, and an agreement with your participants. And also if you have the whole property, because if you don't have the whole property, I think a silent retreat would be next to impossible, because there might be kids screaming in the pool, or the cleaners talking to each other or whatever. So just considering the venue, if you want to do something silent. I don't know if you had any thoughts on meditation retreats and
the like. I think people are interested in them. I think they're more, what I've seen is more interest in learning about meditation. These are not people who necessarily want to go and do nothing but meditate. They want it to be a part of what they do, but they want to go somewhere peaceful and beautiful and learn how to meditate. I haven't had a whole lot of experience with really advanced people who want to go on a retreat and have it be a silent retreat, or have it be nothing but meditation for 5 days. That can be difficult.
Go to an ashram. You can go to an ashram.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the case, then there are some really fantastic places, especially I've seen a lot in India where that's what they focus on, and that's where they should be. But I have a lot of teachers who are meditation teachers, and they want to bring their beginning students where they can kind of deep dive into what meditation really is, learn the basics, learn the mechanics of it, more than practice it, you know, fully immersed for 5 days.
Yeah, and on my retreats, we only did like meditation once a day, like in the morning, and it was like open, and you didn't have to come, you know, it was kind of open forum, and it was quiet, and we were all sitting quietly, and we had, you know, the pillows set up, and people kind of had their own practice that they could incorporate. And then your other question is really interesting. What challenges do you have with retreats that don't allow cell phones? And I'll also add in like, what about like using Wi-Fi, bringing computers, all that stuff. So what's your thought? I'm curious.
So I think I'm a New Yorker, so the idea of completely disconnecting is not something that a New Yorker is really probably going to want to do. Like, they need to be able to, for their own peace of mind, they need to be able to check their phone and things like that. So unless you're headed to, again, and I think it goes back to what you were saying with, if you can't have a phone but everybody around you else at the resort has theirs phones buzzing, it can be difficult. So there are places that don't have Wi-Fi, and there are places that don't have cell phone service. And I think just being open with your clients that that's what this is, so that they're not surprised when they get there. So for instance, I have a client looking at Nicaragua, and there were a lot of great options in Nicaragua, and one had no Wi-Fi. And she's a Brooklyn-based yoga studio. And I went back to her and I said, this place looks great, but there's no Wi-Fi. And she said, absolutely not. So you have to know your clientele. And if it's something your clientele is interested in and can do, I would say head to a place that, like, it's property wide. They don't have Wi-Fi. They're more off the grid, and there's plenty of them. So it's not like that's difficult to find, but at least then you know everybody there, whether you have the whole property or not, is going to be on the same page.
Yeah, and what I would add is there are more than, I mean, I was just in Belize and they had no cell service and they had the most shitty Wi-Fi, you know, it was just like really spotty, you know, so a retreat there, you would already kind of be clearing the slate. But depending on who the teacher is, depending on what kind of container it is, you can just say, hey, can we all commit to putting our phones away for the weekend or for the week and just being present and being there with each other. But it has to do with the community that you've cultivated. It has to do with the type of attendees you have. If there are these fast-paced New Yorkers, they may not want to like go have their phone. Another thing that I've seen be really effective is at some of these, like Costa Rica, Nicaragua, they only have internet, and also in Asia too, like in Philippines, Bali, they only have internet in the main like lobby or the restaurant. So they don't have it in the rooms. And so there is this kind of, you could post on Facebook or you could check your email just like once or twice a day, but you don't have it with you all the time, and especially when you sleep. And honestly, I tell people this, whenever I sleep somewhere that doesn't have Wi-Fi, that's off the grid, I sleep better, I sleep deeper. I think my body just feels more restorative, and I push that. And then the one thing that I wanted to talk about that you brought up, because when you said don't allow cell phones, also I've heard that like don't drink alcohol one with logistics. Personally, my retreats, I ask people to refrain from drinking alcohol. Does that mean that they don't sometimes drink? Yeah. But if you're creating a container where there's no alcohol, then that can be. And I've also spoke at a retreat where people were drinking freely daily at happy hour every day, and that was fine too. It just depends on what kind of teacher you are and what kind of thing you're cultivating. But I'm interested in what you think, Holly, about having alcohol at retreats, especially fitness retreats.
So I tend to go the opposite direction and say you should have alcohol available. Obviously, you don't have to drink if you don't want to. I limit it to dinner most of the time. So if somebody wants to have a glass of wine with dinner and they've worked out 3 times that day and they've gone on a hike, like, they deserve a glass of wine. That's fine. So that tends to be, I don't have it readily available. I generally recommend that my clients don't include it in their, unless they're staying at a villa where they can go out and get a case of beer or a bottle of wine or something like that. But in terms of like going to resorts and hotels, I generally recommend they don't include it in the overall price. And that way, if somebody wants to get a drink, they're free to. But again, as I think you were alluding to, it's not part of the retreat. It's not the point. But on the other hand, they are on holiday, and if they want to have a drink, they should be allowed to have a drink. So that's sort of my opinion.
And I actually don't understand the next question, so I don't know if maybe you want to pull Josh on. I don't know what that means. Have you done an off the grid building retreat, like build things? I know that there's like woof and woofing, and let me see, unmute you. I have.
Hello.
Hi, Joshua.
Okay to ask hi, thank you guys for such great information. My mom has a retreat center, which is where I'm at right now, and wanting to do cob building workshops and permaculture type of workshops where people come and they actually learn a skill during the retreat. So it's kind of a combination of you're coming there on purpose to learn some skill that you can take back. So there's a facilitator that's teaching, whether it be how to make cob bricks or et cetera. Have either of you guys had any experience with that?
Do you have anything, Holly?
So not with that specifically, but I have done, what I've seen is volunteer experience with whatever the retreat is. So again, going back to Nicaragua, I work with a venue that does what they call a karma yoga day, which is they partner with a local school, and the retreat participants with the school kids go out and clean up a beach. So that's probably the closest that I have. I think it's a great idea. Retreats are all about bringing people together with a common interest. So if that's, learning a skill or a fitness thing, like it can be applied to any type of thing. So if somebody were interested in permaculture, having the opportunity to go on a retreat where that's what they learned about, it would be really appealing to them. It's the same kind of thing as a yoga retreat, right? They're going on a retreat to learn the skill of more in-depth yoga experience. So it's just applying it to whatever that particular skill or hobby might be at that time.
Yeah, and in my thought, so I work with a retreat center in Hawaii called Lolea, and they're really an eco village, and so they have woofers there who are doing permaculture and stuff like that. But my only thought is, if you're trying to create like a weekend workshop or a 7-day thing, you would need to bring in some sort of speaker, some sort of person that's sort of going to magnetize the event, because sometimes the skill itself is not juicy enough to have someone put money forward or to book the flight. Right. But they're looking forward to some sort of, again, like expert training could potentially tip that over, because I know that like people can woof for basically free and learn permaculture, and but if you had like somebody from this world-renowned permaculture thing come in and be teaching this specific thing, again, I wouldn't just push that. Again, I would push a full experience, with other elements to it, but you probably could put together some kind of event like that. But I would look more to woofing myself if you were looking for people to come and especially do work or build things on your property.
And the other option, the other thing that I have seen is doing some kind of continuing education credits. So I have a client who's a massage therapist, and she's offering a retreat in Hawaii later this year where the people who come to her workshop are going to earn continuing education credits in massage therapy. So that's a great way as well. Then it becomes something that, again, they're getting something out of it more than just coming to practice one particular skill. They're actually taking something away, a certificate, extra credits, whatever it might be. So I think that that's another way to do it.
So lightning round, Holly, what is your favorite destination to either host a retreat or to attend a retreat?
I love hosting retreats and seeing retreats and planning them in Costa Rica and Nicaragua, just because I love the diversity. I know they're really trendy right now, but just in general, you can surf in the morning and hike in the afternoon, and there's just so many different activities that you can do, and the landscape and the environment is so diverse. So that's a real favorite of mine. On the other side, I really like the Caribbean, same kind of reasons. There's lots to do. I personally, like for attending retreats, I like the Caribbean. It's probably my favorite region. Just the sun and the sand and the vibes of being in the Caribbean is right up my alley. So those would probably be my top two.
And any predictions about retreat trends or things that are hot? You just mentioned Costa Rica, Nicaragua. I know Central America is so hot, even though for me it's been my favorite for like ever. But any cool trends or interesting things you've been learning about in the retreat space that you want to keep people updated on?
So I think people are more and more moving away. I think when the retreat trend kind of kicked off, people were really interested in these companies that hosted just wide-ranging retreats for everybody with no particular following. And they brought in kind of expert trainers to lead them, but they weren't affiliated with any studio or anything. I actually see the industry moving away from that and moving more towards individuals hosting retreats for their clientele.
Communities.
More and more, like, I think people are realizing the benefits of doing retreats, of hosting them themselves. And so if somebody's given the option to go to do a retreat with people they've never met, with a trainer they've never trained with, or going with the person that they see 3 times a week and they love and is their favorite trainer, they're going to choose to go with their favorite trainer. So I think there's going to be a continued shift to retreats hosted by studios and individual practitioners rather than these big companies that host them with a variety of different trainers with no studio affiliation. That's what I see. That's what I think is probably the biggest trend.
Cool. I mean, my biggest trend is like it's a trend that I see happening, and it's something that I'm like willing to happen even more and more, but more people to book retreats like vacations. So to know they've got that week or two off of work and strategically looking for the perfect yoga retreat, the perfect martial arts retreat, the perfect retreat for whatever it is that really keeps them alive and fit, and they're going to be with a group of like-minded people, right? We have a lot of solo travelers or couple travelers who are looking to make new friends, looking to make like-minded connections, and they're choosing retreats over, an all-inclusive vacation or going around to Europe. They're choosing this week of intentional community and connection and activity that could transform their life. So that's my trend report. And anything you wish or want or you're seeing for the future of retreats coming up in the horizon?
Anything I wish for retreats. I think that just the overall growth of people wanting to do this and trying to do this, and I just think it's going to continue to grow, and people, I think gone are the days when people want to go and just do nothing and lay on a beach for 5 days. Like, now more and more people want to stay active. They want to stay healthy while they travel. They don't want to get back from their trip feeling like they just gained 10 pounds and are, fat and not in good shape anymore. Like, they gave up going to the gym for a week and now they're suffering the consequences and they have to go back and work twice as hard. Like, it's so nice to get back feeling better than when you left. So
I love that. I love that so much. So how can people get a hold of you? Because people like you are going to change the face of retreats, because you're making it so much easier and so much more effortless to plan your retreat and make it a reality. So how do they get a hold of you?
So the easiest way is to just go to our website, which is TravelFitRetreats.com. You can book a call with us and to talk more about your vision. You can send us contact us straight through the website, or you can shoot us an email. My personal email is holly@TravelFitRetreats.com, or info@TravelFitRetreats.com. And those are the easiest ways to get in touch with us. We'll also be out at the IDEA convention in San Diego, IDEA World in San Diego in June. So we'll booth 134. So you can come and see us there and have a chat.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Holly. We have one more question from Joshua. He's asking about average prices for a 2-night, 3-day retreat, general highs and lows. Well, first what I'm going to say is it completely varies from country to country, from state to state, and again, season to season. So like she talked about high season, low season, maybe it's because it's too cold or it's too wet. Like I work with a lodge in Canada, and actually, but some people love to go up there in the snow and hike, and we can take the helicopter to the glacier. It just depends on the audience. And the prices literally can vary. And they can be hundreds of dollars per person per night, down to, like Lolia that I'm working with in Hawaii. I mean, they're one of the best prices I've seen. They're $99 a night a person, including 3 meals a day. So it can vary. I don't know if you have a different opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I generally say if you want to do an all-inclusive retreat, you need to budget at least $400 a day per person. That's a good, you're going to find something that fits in that budget pretty much anywhere you go at any time. You should be able to find a place. And if you can't, then you need to call us because we'll be able to find it for you. But yeah, so I'd say, and a lot of times, as you said, Lynan, it can be a lot less expensive. It can also go up to thousands of dollars per person per night. But, you're going to be able to find something if you budget about $400 per person per night.
Yeah, because you got to factor in not only transfers, the hotel, any additional food, all the excursions, any additional fees. I always say anticipate additional fees no matter where you host, because stuff happens. Always. Always. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Holly. It's such a treat.
Yeah, my pleasure.
I hope lots of our amazing friends reach out to you. I can't press this enough. I wish I'd hired somebody like Holly years ago and give myself headaches and sleepless nights and let it be easy and let someone like Holly help you. It's not that expensive. It's totally affordable. It's totally doable. So reach out to Holly. We'll put all her contact information below. And thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for coming on too, Joshua.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.